Jenny Lark. My question is about the technical, creative, behind the scenes of your channel. I recently started a video series project of my own, so I've become super curious about the processes of the creators that I follow. What camera software do you use? What is your philosophy behind your output? How to be engaging, etc. Also, clearly you're super creative, and I'm wondering if you have philosophy of how you perceive your creativity, or if you've ever struggled with it. I recently showed my camera setup and stuff like that on a recent Q&A, so I'm not going to do that again. I use the Adobe suite of software, which is Adobe Premiere Pro and Photoshop and Illustrator and After Effects and things like that. So that's the software that I use. And as far as the creativity and stuff, this is an interesting question. That's why I wanted to answer this, because I haven't really thought about it a lot. I have been a writer all my life. From the time that I was in grade school, I was writing stories. And I always imagined that my life was going to go in the direction of creation, of being a creative as far as writing novels and stories and things like that. I grew up reading Stephen King and J.R.R. Tolkien. I mean, I read actually so many books when I was young. I was just a sponge. I've read thousands of books in my life. And then taken ideas and things and started working on how to write myself. And of course, when you are a writer or a creative, the only way that you really get any good at it or get any better at it is to do it and do it and do it and do it. And I didn't have a chance for many, many years to do that as a fiction writer, because once I joined the Sea organization, once I joined Scientology, out of high school, and then I joined the Sea organization, I didn't have much time for anything like creative writing or story writing. I did a little tiny bit when I was in, but really hardly anything because of the time constraints of my schedule. I did put a lot of create, though, into other things that I did when I was in the Sea Org. So I still was creating stuff. I learned how to do computer programming, which, believe me, is very creative, actually. Trying to figure out problems and solve them and things like that. And then I also did a lot of writing in terms of not just orders and stuff that I wrote, but I did copywriting, I did recruit pieces, I did promotional pieces, and I kept up some skills that way and learned some skills that way. That's where I learned how to use Adobe software like Photoshop and Illustrator, and it went from there. So when I came out of the Sea Org and I started writing again, looking at writing again, that was, something I was going to start pursuing. And then, 2013 happened, and that was the year of hell. And I then started writing. I started finding myself expressing my thoughts and ideas in nonfiction pieces. I was writing about Scientology. I was writing about myself. And I was just using the English skills and the creative skills that I have to try to express myself in a logical, rational way. Try to not necessarily be non-emotional, but trying to not be overly emotional, and trying to change the premise for me. The priority for me was changing hearts and minds through rational discourse, and so that was the approach that I took, and it turned out to be a pretty good fit for me in terms of how I would go about writing non-fiction work and stuff like that. And I had so much to say, so many things to talk about. I mean, I have, with Scientology alone, I have, 27 years of practical, hard experience with it. So to impart all of that experience, or the lessons and activities of that much of time to you guys, has been a lot of work, right? But it's been a very interesting work in trying to figure out what am I going to talk about this time? What am I going to make a video about, or a series of videos about? How am I going to lay this out? What's the logical progression of the thoughts and ideas here, and how should this all go? And then sitting down and doing it. There have been, and then putting myself on a schedule. And this is not easy to do, but when you're creative and this is your passion, then it is not work as much as you might think it is. But putting myself on a schedule where it was 2 videos a week, then I started doing the podcast, right? So now I have 3 videos a week that I'm putting out. There have been days where I have had some writer's block, and I have generally, as a creative, had a rule for myself that if I'm experiencing, if I'm not inspired, if I'm not, thinking of something that I'm really into as far as writing, I don't try to push something out anyway. Because it's hard. It's really, really hard to do that. So instead, I just wait for it to come. And generally speaking, it doesn't take that long. However, there have been a couple times where, it's been a Wednesday and I got to get a video up on Thursday. And I wake up Wednesday morning and I'm like, I don't know what to talk about, and I've called people and I'm stuck right now. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to make a video about. And oddly enough, even when I've sort of had to, because of the time issue, push something out, wrote something, and sometimes there have been a couple times where I thought, this is no good. People are going to hate this, right? This is just going to be awful. And they were some of the best videos. They were just some of the best received videos ever, right? It was really funny. And then, of course, there's other times where I've been very inspired, have put something together, been totally excited about it, and this is especially true for some of my critical thinking videos, my non-Scientology directly related videos. I am really proud of some of that work, and I put a lot of work into it, and I put it out, and hardly anybody watches it, and I'm like, but I know that, I'm still proud of it. It still sits there for me as a piece of work that I can be proud of, and that I know is timeless. It will be there forever on YouTube. It will be written on my blog, and people 10 years from now can still get something out of it, the same, even if they didn't get something out of it the first few days that I put it up. And you want a lot of people to look at your work, and sometimes they don't, and that's a little frustrating sometimes, but it's being, it's what it is. So that's, I don't know, maybe that gives a little bit of, how it is for me as a creative and as a writer. I do think of myself as a writer before anything else. All the video work and stuff I do because it's the best way to get to a larger audience of people in a shorter amount of time. That's what sparked me doing YouTube in the first place. I write everything I do pretty much, except these Q&A videos, because I like the spontaneity of just answering off the top of my head. But as far as all the other video content that you see on my channel, it's all pre-written. And I have a great time doing it, and researching and writing and all that. So maybe all this sums up some good advice for you. I hope it does, and or otherwise might be interesting for you to hear about my process. So there you go.